Ladies and gentlemen, we have an exceptional opportunity today, and that is to hear Sterling Brewer do the class. As you may know, Sterling was a medic in World War II. He was in New Guinea, the Philippines, Japan, and when he came into Tokyo Bay, September 1st, 1945, the next day, the Japanese surrendered. He started in radio as a guest at age 7, 1932. He started in TV in 1953. He was on Channel 13, on Channel 42, and he had an ad agency. He was everywhere. He was also in the clock repair business. So, ladies and gentlemen, in this no, that's out. Help me welcome a man who has been on TV longer than most of us have been watching TV, Sterling Brewer.
I thought you were Sterling. Sterling has asked me to read. Sterling has asked me to read from Luke 24. If you'd like to turn there, I'll be reading the whatever version is in your pew rack. International Version, chapter 24, beginning with verse 1. On the first day of the week, very early in the morning, the women took the spices they had prepared and went to the tomb. They found the stone rolled away from the tomb, but when they entered, they did not find the body of the Lord Jesus. While they were wondering about this, suddenly 2 men in clothes that gleamed like lightning stood beside them. In their fright, the women bowed down with their faces to the ground. But the men said to them, "Why do you look for the living among the dead? He's not here. He's risen. Remember how he told you while he was still with you in Galilee? He said, the Son of Man must be delivered over to the hands of sinners, be crucified, and on the third day be raised again." Then they remembered his words. When they came back from the tomb, they told all these things to the 11 and to all the others. It was Mary Magdalene, Joanna, Mary the mother of James, and the others with them who told this to the apostles. But they did not believe the women because their words seemed to them like nonsense. Peter, however, got up and ran to the tomb. Bending over, he saw the strips of linen lying by themselves, and he went away, wondering to himself what had happened. Now that same day, 2 of them were going to a village called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem. They were talking with each other about everything that had happened. As they talked and discussed these things with each other, Jesus himself came up and walked along with them. But they were kept from recognizing him. He asked them, "What are you discussing together as you walk along?" They stood still, their faces downcast. One of them, named Cleopas, asked him, "Are you the only one visiting Jerusalem who does not know the things that have happened these days?" "What things?" he asked. "About Jesus of Nazareth," they replied. "He was a prophet, powerful in word and deed before God and all the people. The chief priests and our rulers handed him over to be sentenced to death. They crucified him. But when we had hoped that he was the one who was going to redeem Israel. And what is more, it is the 3rd day since all this took place. And in addition, some of the women amazed us. They went to the tomb early this morning, but didn't find his body. They came and told us that they had seen a vision of angels who said he was alive. Then some of our companions went to the tomb and found it just as the women had said, but they did not see Jesus. And he said to them, "How foolish you are, and how slow to believe all that the prophets have spoken. Did not the Messiah have to suffer these things and then enter his glory? And beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he explained to them what was said in the Scriptures concerning himself. As they approached the village to which they were going, Jesus continued on as if he were going farther. But they urged him strongly, "Stay with us, for it is nearly evening. The day is almost over." So he went in to stay with them. When he was at table with them, he took bread, gave thanks, broke it, and began to give it to them. Then their eyes were opened, and they recognized him, and he disappeared.
Thank you, Carl. I asked Carl to read that because I run out of breath rather quickly these days, and I would have run out doing that, looking down at the scripture and reading it. But haven't we had a wonderful service thus far this morning? Before I left the house, I was reading the little book, Jesus Calling, and it said, "Approach my throne with thanksgiving." And I don't know whether you've done that or not. I invite you to. It said thanksgiving opens us up to receive the blessings of the indwelling Christ. So I thank God for being here. I thank Carl for reading. I thank you for being here. On the last day of last Sunday of February, I was honored to be invited to speak at the North Springs Church of Christ near Bowling Green in northern Tennessee. A friend of my sister-in-law is the treasurer there, and he had invited me. And so there we went, and I shared with them what I will share with you this morning, which is the gospel according to FedEx. Now, the word gospel, as I understand it, can be interpreted several ways, but I think I'm using it in the form of it is good news. It is good news. As was pointed out earlier by Russ, I have had at least 2 careers, one in advertising and one as a school bus driver. And both of those come into play this morning. Some 10 or 12 years ago, I walked in after my morning route, and Betty was watching Fox and Friends, I think, and they were introducing a man who was identified as an expert in advertising. That caught my attention. I sat down to listen to him, and he pointed out a particular logo and told us how ingenious it was. We'll have it on the screen right now. And I looked at that and I thought, why call that ingenious? In advertising terms, that's a 2-color separation of 5 letters, 2 capitals, 3 lowercase, printed on a plain white background. What's exceptional about that? Take it down there if you would, but keep it handy. And Steve Ducey, I guess it was, said, well, what's so remarkable about that? And the expert pointed out, said, how long did it take you to recognize whose logo that was? It was instantaneous. You didn't have to study it. You didn't have to wonder, what are they advertising? Why have they got that up there? You knew immediately why it was. And then he went on to ask Steve Ducey, said, did you see the arrow? The arrow? I saw no arrow. Steve Ducey said he saw no arrow. He said, well, look again. Do you see an arrow? I looked all over that. I didn't see one. I don't know whether you see one now or not, but I will show you one. Look at the capital E down at the bottom as it joins the X. That's all I see nowadays. I don't see FedEx. I don't see any of the other letters. I see the arrow. And it is my hope that you will adopt that same attitude. Just see the arrow. The reason I call it the good news, according to FedEx, is because that arrow is always pointing to the right. As you look at it, it points to the right. Well, it became for me a symbol of Jesus, a spur, so to speak, to bring my thoughts back on Jesus Christ, who is always pointing me to the right. We sang, where he leads me, I will follow. If we can follow Jesus, we will never go wrong. We will always be going to the right. When I first joined the Sunday night core group that frequently meets in the fireside room, Stan Tomlin was in charge. Stan, are you in here? I can't see you with these spotlights. I told him he had to be in here because I was going to talk about him. Stan had not a trick, but a question that he would frequently ask. And it was kind of like the ending of the story that Carl read from Luke. Stan would say, where have you seen Jesus lately? Or where did you see Jesus today? Or did you see Jesus yesterday? And your mind might be entirely on something else, but suddenly you thought back, where did I see Jesus? Maybe it was in the in the face of a child like Hannah Joy, or maybe it was some random act of kindness you saw, or maybe it was, as Brett said, about the man who held the door for him. Somewhere, if you look for it, you will always see Jesus somewhere. As it was on the road to Emmaus, the men could not see Jesus. They were so busy talking about him that they could not see him. Why that was the truth, I don't know. But they did see him in the breaking of the bread. And I think that is just a wonderful, wonderful story. I love that story. Last time I spoke at this class, we were on the road to Jericho. Today on the road to Emmaus. Today we're not only on the road to Emmaus, but we're on the road that goes in front of your house, the road that leads down Highway 31 or Highway 65, because somewhere you're going to see that arrow. And I hope it catches you all unaware. All of a sudden, you'll realize what you're looking at. You're looking at Jesus Christ, or a symbol of Christ, who is pointing you to always follow him to the right. I just think that is That has been a wonderful experience for me. And my hope is that somebody in Red Walling Springs this week, last week, was suddenly caught unaware. Maybe they were thinking of the price of hogs, or when they should plant what's going to be the deal I'll get on soybeans this year. And that sign went past them. I hope they saw it. I hope they saw that arrow. I hope it centered their mind on Jesus Christ. That's where we need to keep our minds centered. That's where we're always going right. Jesus is calling us to follow him. It's wonderful to walk in the footsteps of Jesus. And if we can remember that, we will be stepping in the light. I hope you were caught unaware this week. Maybe today, maybe Wednesday, maybe whenever, that you see that sign, but you don't see the sign, you see the arrow. You don't see the arrow, you see Jesus. You see Jesus pointing the way. In John, the 14th chapter, Jesus is recounted as saying, I am the way, the truth, and the light. No one comes into the Father except through me. Remember that. There is no other way to get to God, no other way to get to our heavenly home except through Jesus Christ. And we saw a baptism this morning. I won't say that's the first step. The first step is making a decision. But we saw the first active step of somebody following Jesus. Let us all pray that we can do that, not only today, but every day. That, my friends, to me is the gospel according to FedEx. Thank you.
Sterling, thank you.